from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hey everybody, Jen cannot hold it together as we are preparing for this podcast intro, so I'm going to lead off. Hey everybody, it's Talking Catholic, and you're with Mike Walsh and the soon-to-be former managing editor of the Catholic Star-Herald, Jen Mauro. How you doing, Jen?
I'm great. Mike asked me to give a more energetic opening.
I did.
And apparently, I don't know.
Where the middle ground is?
Yes, I only have two speeds: go and stop. So, and then I couldn't stop laughing.
And then it was just okay. Stop.
So you got Mike.
It's been a week. We actually recorded the interview for this podcast about an hour ago. It was a really nice interview. Talked to a number of people we haven't had on the show in a while, and a couple of first timers. Mm-hmm. So that was nice to have them on. Actually, you know what? It's possible that they've all been on the show.
Are you sure?
I think Father Nilsson was on either right before or right after he became a priest. Oh. I know back we were doing a lot of Carrie Janice was getting our newly ordained priests on the podcast with some regularity. So I do wonder if he's been on, but he was on as part of a group. At any rate, yeah, we had a really nice conversation with an entire group of priests that you'll hear in a few minutes.
There's like 6 priests on today.
Yeah, it was nice.
It was really exciting, actually.
Yeah. And Donna Ottaviano-Britt. Couldn't get rid of her. Frienemy.
Which
exactly.
I would never, ever, ever agree to. Except I might have to a little bit today.
What's that? That she's your frenemy?
A little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She says something in the interview that
she does. It was a shock.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil it. You guys have to listen, but it was a shocker.
So Donna is officially on the outs. So,
I don't know if I go that far, but
it wouldn't be hard. But we on the other hand had a very useful week where we once again put together a fantastic newspaper.
We did.
Highlighting our Catholic schools, which was great. All the graduations recently. Our photographers. Listen, shout out to our photographers that are not named Mike Walsh. This week did a phenomenal job. We had Lori, Carlos, and Joe. And wow, they took some great photos at our high school graduation. So kudos to those 3. I'm
going to submit them next year for awards.
Yeah.
Some of those were just outstanding.
Yeah. And more importantly, thank you for doing it so I didn't have to. So thank you to all 3 of you. Great job. I have done all 5 by myself once or twice.
You did?
Yeah, I've done them all.
Oh my goodness. Wait, all at once? All in 1 year?
I am in fact omnipresent.
I meant 5 in a year.
Yeah, 5 in a year. I did all 5 in 1 year.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm really good.
And once again, so humble.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, we just put out a 52-page issue, which I think I know it is our largest graduation issue.
Yeah.
And in addition to the graduation roundup and a feature of each of the 5 diocesan schools, we have more actual other articles about individual students, individual schools, middle schools than we've had, I think, ever in a graduation issue, or maybe not since COVID. I know the COVID year had a lot.
Yeah.
But we have features on some high school seniors who just really went above and beyond. We have a great sports roundup. If you've missed any of the sports activities, you will not be left behind after reading that.
Yeah, and we got kudos to Mark Zamaro, our sports reporter, who has been offered a place on this podcast many, 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 many times over the last 6 months, and somebody keeps failing him, not me. But we'd love to have him back on again because he's great hang and he's a great chat. But he did a phenomenal job turning some stuff around, including, as we record this on Thursday, last night's Gloucester Catholic State Championship for baseball.
He does. He was at the game. He kept giving me texts throughout the game while I was on deadline. He was like, second inning, we're down, by 2. 6th inning, we're up by 4. So it was pretty exciting. And then threw it up on social and the website, a full gallery. So if you want to check out some outstanding photos of the Gloucester Catholic Championship, 3rd consecutive year that they've won the baseball state tourney.
They are the very definition of a juggernaut. And I get the claim to have once been a Gloucester Catholic baseball player. I did make it past the freshman year, but technically I was a member of the Gloucester Catholic baseball team. But that's all I deserve. And as I recall, my one great moment was in batting practice. I hit the ball, which was a rarity, and then hit the coach's foot, breaking his foot and forcing him to walk off the mound, at which point he jokingly threw me off the team.
Oh my gosh.
But only for an afternoon. Then I was back on again. Sorry, Mr. P. Mr. Persuara.
Meanwhile, somewhere there's a Mike Walsh dartboard.
Probably. But no, he was my history teacher too. So I heard about it a lot for the remainder of that spring. But no, he was a good guy. But getting back to the edition, it was a fantastic edition. 52 pages, 51 of them are great. I'll let you figure out what the one clunker in there is great. One clunker in there is, but yeah.
Now even I can't wait to know what the one clunker is.
Oh, you'll figure it out. You'll get a letter.
I'll get a letter. Probably will.
No, because it's surrounded by a ton of great stuff. So
no, then nobody will notice.
Yeah. You, on the other hand, need to start thinking up podcast guests because I'm going to be away for a week in a short while.
You are. You're going to be at a big media event.
Yeah, I'll be at the Catholic Media Association at the end of June. So
without me.
Yeah,
or any of the other staff.
Without a single member
enjoy.
of the Yeah, actually I am. It's going to be fun. The last year I was in Atlanta without any of you. That was a blast. And then Phoenix this year without any of you. So it should be good.
Looking forward to it again.
I really am. And then the following year, it's in Atlantic City with all of you, and I'll be sad.
And I will be sad. But are you going? Well, first off, but we'll be doing some live podcasting maybe from ours in Atlantic City. We should do a live Talking Catholic.
Absolutely. We should do many of them.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll be the keynote.
What do you... There you go, Catholic Media Association. You get Jen Mauro, Mike Walsh. That's all we got.
Just screwing around.
Yeah. Are you going to do a podcast from Phoenix?
I do try to line people up for podcasts. I usually do them after the fact, only because, with the exception of the Baltimore year, when I was able to bring the gear with me, the gear is just a pain in the neck to bring.
Out of travel.
So unless I can come up with someone or borrow somebody else's gear, I probably won't do one local.
Gotcha.
But I will tell you this, though, their communications director, the two people who are organizing the event for them, Brett Meister and Jen Ellis, are just fantastic human beings. He used to be, oh God, sorry, Brett, if I screw this up. He was the communications director or something related to that, PR for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so he's got a great personality.
Oh,
or I'm wrong about that, by the way, but I'm 99% sure it's accurate.
And he doesn't have a good
For that
personality.
matter, it could be the Phoenix Suns. Who knows? But anyway, they've done a fantastic job of putting together this year's the local end of this year's Catholic Media Association, and then you get to do that next year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, they actually I was putting together my list of who's on the national committee, and I only put my own name on it. And they were like, you don't have anybody else local who's going to be on it? I said, oh, no. There'll be lots of people local. It's just, they're going to be there whether they want there to or not. So their names aren't necessary for this. So you, Neil,
Rude.
Maria, Kalitz, the whole bit.
Rude.
Y'all get featured. Actually, you're giving a presentation next year.
Yeah, apparently. Oh, yeah, I am. But also, you said Kalitz. Let's not forget that Kalitz helped create the... So at the Catholic Media Association, there's always a video shown at the end to kind of introduce, this is where it's going to be next year. And John Kalitz created one with Mike reading kind of like an
old SNL Weekend Update.
Update, yeah. But all these about, why you should be coming to Atlantic City for the Catholic Media Association.
Just insult after insult after insult.
It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a good time with it. John does great with fun and games for a lot of our stuff. He has to do serious stuff all the time, so it's nice when he gets to break free and have a little fun with something. We have a nice recording with Bishop Williams as a part of it, and then the Atlantic City folks gave us their promo video to include in it, so it'll be nice. So maybe it'll see the light of day, maybe not. Let's see what kind of reaction we get with it in Phoenix.
I was going to say we should put it on. Everybody, please email Mike.Walsh to see this video.
As is noted later on in the episode, I disappoint people left and right, so I'm more than happy to say no. We'll see what happens.
Sometimes I like to say the things on air to see if it'll actually happen.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
I can't be played. At any rate, we are now going to move to the interview portion. So thanks for listening, and enjoy this far better conversation with some of our learned guests.
Well, everybody, we have a very exciting episode for you today. This is not a hostful, but it is definitely the most people that I've ever had on a podcast, I think. All priests, and Donna, not a frienemy. Hello, Donna. We have Donna Ottaviano-Britt.
Hello, Jen. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Not
good.
a frienemy, Michael.
Not a frenemy. Thank you very much. My mom would be pleased.
I'm sorry. She is. It's just the way it is. So Donna, you have been leading many projects since you came to the diocese, but your most recent one is really impressive. It's one of the few I've ever heard of taking place certainly in any diocese in our area. So what are we talking about today? Why have you gathered this impressive grouping of priests with us?
And they are an impressive group of priests. So we started a number of years ago in the diocese as an initiative of leadership development for the clergy. And so I spent a fair bit of time several years ago traveling the diocese and talking to primarily pastors at that time around what leadership development needs might be. The first thing they were primarily clear about is they didn't want anybody coming from the outside telling them what to do. So that was very clear. And really, there's a lot of great organizations out there that do leadership development, but the focus of many of them is outside in versus an inside out. Like, who is the priest? How is the priest created? What is unique and unrepeatable about him? And why did Jesus need each of these men that he is called to be his priest? So we custom built an executive coaching program for the clergy here. And we had several strategic partners, the Human Formation Coalition, Equip to Equip out in Nebraska, Kara Stolarczyk, Joshua Miller from Steubenville, who runs Inscape for Vocation. So it was really a collection of powerhouses that built this experience that we wanted the priests to have. And so we piloted it in 21 with 12 priests. So I'm sure there's something biblical about 12 priests piloting that coaching accompaniment model that we had here. But it was very much about the priest. It was for him. It was about him. It was not, oh, Father, you have to do this and you have to do that. It's like, why did Jesus need you to be his priest? Because that was a question I had begun to ask when I was meeting with the pastors. It was like, you clearly answer the call to your vocation to the priesthood of Jesus Christ. Well, why does he need you? And that was a little harder to get an answer to. And that's why we started here.
Excellent. So without any further ado, I know before we started recording, I said this was going to be Jen's job, but actually I changed my mind, Tom. It's going to be your job. I'd like you to, you're welcome. Donna, I'd like you to introduce each of the priests that have joined us today, what their parish is and how long they've been a part of the program. And then to our dear guests, just say hi. So Donna, whenever you're ready.
So I'm actually going to start with Father Robert Hughes because he was one of the original priests in the pilot. He was also someone that I went to with this and said, I'd like to try this. So he's really great strategically to help me think how it might look, how we might roll it out. Had conversations with Bishop Sullivan, and that was where we started building it in 2020. So, Father.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you.
Thank you for that. And you'll have several things to say because you were part of the original pilot. Father John March, who's actually went through the program, the original one, and is now in an extended version of this coaching of clergy. It's a year-long accompaniment with an executive coach. So, Father John.
Hi, Donna. Thank you.
What parish are you from, Father?
Oh, I'm from St. Vincent de Paul in Mays Landing. Yeah.
Thank you, Father. Father Goyette, you were in our second group of priests. So will you share where you're from with the listeners?
Currently in Franklinville and Clayton, St. Michael the Archangel Parish and school.
Thank
My
you.
hometown parish, with which I have a great deal of love, and which my parents have a great deal of love for Father Goyette. So it's always good to have him on the podcast. My parents might actually listen this week.
Yeah.
That would be very good. There's no pressure, Father Goyette, for Mike's parents, for the Walshes. Father Nilsson, You're in our latest offering, which is a year of this accompaniment coaching. So you share with our listeners which parish you're associated with.
Sure. So I'm the parochial vicar at St. Elizabeth and Seton in Absecon.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
And Father,
Since we're giving parent shout outs, that is my parents' parish right now. So shout out to the Absecon.
And they actually will listen.
Yes, they do.
yes, they probably will. I would think they will. And Father Kevin Mohan, last but certainly not least to be introduced.
Hi, it's great to see everybody. I am the current pastor of Atlantic City, the parish of St. Monica.
Thank
Great.
you.
Good to
Thank
see
you for joining
everybody.
us.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. We're going to actually start with Father Hughes because you were the person that greenlit this unique idea. So I'm curious, what was your thought to push this forward?
I think that the genesis of it was actually two sources. One was when we were preparing to have the convocation in 2019. The priests were asked to go into their parish communities and to invite 5 people or 10 people from their parish to participate in the convocation. And we asked them not to choose people from their parish staffs. And the response was very timid. The priests were, by and large, not able to go out into their parish community and identify people that would be willing to give up 4 days, perhaps, of their work or their time, to participate in this diocesan convocation. And so that was reason number one, coupled with the same kind of an issue we had when we had our diocesan capital campaign. That priests found it difficult to ask people to donate and to give to the capital campaign. And so, in discussion with Donna and the experience of the convocation, we came up with the idea of perhaps offering some sort of leadership training for the priests.
So then, Donna, you gave some of the background of this, but what does this leadership training actually contain in it?
So the original journey that we asked the priests to participate in, it's really like 4.5 months of working with an executive coach. And the executive coach is very focused on what the unique strengths of the priest was. So they started with their own narrative fulfillment stories, right? And fulfillment stories are amazing and no one ever asks us about them, right? So you can look across your life and find these stories that are of things that you assess the situation and you looked at it, you're like, I'm going to take action here, right? So you're not passive, you're the doer, right? In these stories. And you can actually look at what you did and the actions you took were done well. And you found the experience deeply satisfying. And so the priest started with those stories with their coaches. And it's because it also forms the trust bond and relationship between the priest who doesn't know his coach initially. So we thought, let's do a get to know you session and then let's share sort of these fulfillment stories. And then they moved into being coached on their Clifton strengths. And their Clifton strengths, signature strengths, those are at the top of the list, are all over those fulfillment stories. They are very present in those stories. So it helps identify the things that you're actually super good at. And you may already know that. But what it does is it gives you language, right, for the things that you're good at. And then once they spend several sessions being coached through their Clifton strengths and their signatures at the top of that list and their auxiliaries in the middle. And then we call them non-patterns, not weaknesses, at the bottom of the list, right? So the non-patterns are just things you don't naturally gravitate to when you're in your flow, when you have something to do. And they can be life-draining. Right? It just suck you of your energy. There's non-patterns at the bottom. So the importance of that is to find people around you who are actually good at the things you are not, right? And then the last part of their journey with their coaches was an assessment called M-Code. And they put their stories into M-Code, and M-Code actually then takes your stories and tells you what you are deeply motivated by. And it names those things for you. And so it's really, and those are the kinds of stories. And having a name for what makes your heart beat, that's a really profound moment, is to understand those things about yourself and to understand that all of this together is God's unique fingerprint.
Excellent.
And so to be able to see that yourself, how God sees you, how he created you.
So Father John March, I believe Donna referred to you as sort of one of our longest tenured of this process, and now in your advanced studies, advanced experience. When you first heard this, was this something that intrigued you, or did you find yourself to be a little, like, really, do I need to do this? You have a unique background, so I'm curious how you sort of heard this call.
Yeah, when I heard it, I thought it sounded great. I think basically the whole world needs encouragement in our to help us identify what our gifts are and be encouraged in that. And honestly, when I was in seminary, I realized that there's all different types of people that are called to the priesthood. And so it's like if you're going to find like the answer to how to renew the church, it's not like you're going to throw all these different personalities into one pipeline and say, hey, here's the answer. I think the answer is finding out what makes each of those unique personalities like get fired up and then sending them off to do that. So when I heard this, I was like, this is kind of at the foundation of like church renewal and parish renewal, because I think a lot of that happens through the priest. It's hard to get things done without a priest supporting you. So if you have the priest fired up about things and then people are helping him to do the things that he's fired up about, I think that's the way to go. So I think this coaching is helping to encourage the priest to know what he's strong at and pushing him to go do that. And that's going to be good for everybody.
Now, Father March, you're also, you were one of the first or the first class to do this, but you're also still involved with Donna. Why was that important? They said, okay, I didn't just do it. Now I want to kind of take a strong lead as well to help it keep going forward.
Yeah, well, honestly, like I have such great respect for Donna. What she pulled off with that convocation 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I was like, I'm amazed that we have her in our diocese. I'm not trying to flatter her, but I'm just grateful for her presence. So I enjoy getting to work with her. So that's one thing. As far as what really I think about is that she reached out to us and said we're going to have another opportunity for coaching, and I enjoyed the first one so much. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try it out again. It's not always easy to like be vulnerable with somebody, but the first coaching experience was totally different from the second one, and they've both been awesome. And so that's one thing. I just personally have benefited from both. And then as far as helping her with the article, I'll be honest, she told me that Father Hughes asked her to ask me to help with an article, and I took that as a directive from Bishop Sullivan. And even though I was really busy, I was like, I'm never going to say no to Bishop Sullivan. So that's why I'm involved in this.
And Donna, can you fill in a little bit to the audience what the article is about that Father March is talking about?
We believe there's a story to be told about what's happening in the Diocese of Camden. So first, with the clergy being coached, what I will say is I am unaware that anywhere in any diocese, 50% of the active presbyterate is either has been or is currently being coached. So we would like to tell this story, and to quote Father Hughes, who said Camden is the little diocese that could. So we want to be able to tell this story. So Father March has agreed to help me, and all of the priests that are on this podcast. You're going to help feed that article, right? I have the opening of the article written, but now it will be the experience of the priests who've been through the coaching that will help flesh the rest of the article out. And we're looking to go beyond the Catholic Star Herald. No offense, Jen.
Well,
Hold on.
Hold on.
Sorry about that.
You know what? I'm taking frienemy back. I don't know, Donna.
Thank you, Jen.
I got hurt a little.
So each priests, I say this with love and respect, obviously. Priests are like snowflakes, just like the rest of us. They're all, unique and have different charisms and gifts. And Father Michael Goyette is one of my favorite of all the priests, because he's one of the most unique human beings I've ever met in my entire life. So, Father Goyette, when this sort of came your way, like, was this something you felt like you needed to be sold on, or did you kind of feel like there was something there, or had you maybe noticed something in your own priesthood that might have benefited from this, or like, what was your reaction?
When it first happened, I thought it was something useful in my journey, kind of self-discovery and figure out what's important. Because I was a new pastor only a couple of years and trying to figure out what my best strengths and weaknesses were.
Okay. And did you find that the process was beneficial in that regard? Like, were you surprised? I guess maybe the better question is that you actually did
Uh,
get results from it.
I wasn't, I guess the results weren't as surprising, but it was good to talk it out. I have done some personal work in the past, which kind of made me aware of some strengths and weaknesses, but the continual conversation about that and applied to the actual ongoing pastoralship, working with the people, kind of made me focus more on where my strengths and my weaknesses are. Early on in life, I would be trying to make up for my weaknesses by trying to even out my skill set, and now I've realized like, okay, it's not really productive because you never actually get very good at it.
Hmm.
But it's good the coaching process was good and to be able to reflect how I currently was in that job. In other words, pinpoint, because with the parish life, sometimes you don't get the time to stop and think about that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's interesting that almost everybody on this call is currently in a role where you have a school attached to your parish, correct? So, I mean, I would think when you're talking about not having enough time, in addition to the parish, you have the school responsibilities. Have you seen the course help with that as well, Father Goyette?
Yeah, when yeah, the school was a whole load of here. This is a whole brand new field you haven't been in. I've been in schools a lot, but I've never actually been on the top administrative work. And so I was able to be aware of how to utilize my talents. I'm definitely not good in some areas, so I just kind of leave that up to the principal and um, focus on interacting more with the kids, which was really my strength, interacting with the parents. So I was able to figure out this is where I'm good at, so let me focus on that instead of trying to adapt to what the perceived role is. Like
Hmm.
this is what I'm the pastor. This is what I got to do. I got to do this, this, and this, and stuff. Focus on the stuff I'm actually much better at.
What about you, Father Mohan? Donna, I don't think we mentioned which stage you've already gone through it, or you're going through it now, and how has that affected, with you with school?
Well, actually, I was just going to give as a bit of reference to Father Mohan that he's blessed us with his presence today, but he probably has the most diverse parish in the diocese. I would even venture to say one of the most difficult ones because of its incredible range of people who live on the island of Atlantic City that he cares for, multiple locations, multiple churches, multiple cultures that you're dealing with on a daily basis. And I was kind of wondering, does this kind of coaching, is that the kind of thing that might help you as someone who's in charge of the souls of so many unique people?
Well, I hope so. I think so. Yes. It's kind of beautiful. Today I was at our school. We had our awards ceremony, our end of year awards ceremony. And so kids were getting awards for their unique gifts and qualities and accomplishments. And in a beautiful way, that there's this encouragement and affirmation of differentiation and how the kids are different from one another and how that enriches the school community. So kind of a microcosm of my parish in a lot of ways, and also a microcosm of this process that we're here talking about today. I was reflecting again this morning at that event at my school, how God is the author of every good gift. And that's true in terms of the gifts that we all have in common, like the sacraments, membership in the church, knowing Jesus. But it's also true of the gifts that we don't have in common. God is the author and the giver of each of our unique gifts. And that is such a blessing to take stock of, to articulate more clearly. And I think, again, just like this morning at my school, not only to do that as individuals, but to build a culture where the people in a given community, in our case, in our diocese, are trying to do that with and for each other. It's interesting. When I first went through the coaching, there were certain priests who actually said, I've gone through some of this already. I've had something like executive coaching. I've gone through the Clifton Strengths, either as individuals or as members of their religious order in their formation. What I'm excited about and what I see happening now is I see a positive culture shift in our diocese, where really in a way that pertains more to the kingdom of God, we are trying to take stock of our gifts and to use those. And I see that in Bishop Sullivan, really promoting this program at the outset. And I see it now with Bishop Williams, who's very interested in personal gifts, both natural gifts and spiritual gifts. And actually I see that in the people here today, because I am the current pastor of Atlantic City, but the next pastor of Atlantic City is also on this call, as well as a future parochial vicar. And the three of us have very different gifts, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'm happy for my parish that they're going to be receiving the gifts from Father Nilsson and Father Hughes, who are going to be arriving here soon. So it's really in action right now, noticing our different gifts and working with our bishop to use those gifts for the building up of the whole church.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Can I say something about that too, Father Mohan? Thank you. You used so many words. We could talk about so many things, but you used the word affirmation. And I think for us to be affirmed in who we are. So here's what I want to share with you as a statistic. 96% of us live in a constant state of affirmation deprivation. And what I mean by that, and that comes out of research by Dr. Conrad Bars, who survived World War II, the psychiatrist who survived World War II concentration camps. And all of his work was in affirmation, is that most of us receive our affirmation because we've done something that someone else wants and not who we are in our being, right? Mike, you're rolling your eyes. I know you've done stuff.
No. I'm pondering the statement. That's interesting. I've never thought of that.
Yeah. But most of us get affirmed because we've done something that someone else wants or needs us to do, but not who we are uniquely created to be in our being. So that was really a foundational building block of what we started out here with the clergy, is to do that, is to affirm each of the priests that were willing to go through this and your uniqueness, and to really deeply understand why Jesus needed you to be part of his priesthood. Because there has never been another priest like you. There is not one now anywhere, and nor will there ever be another one in the future that is like you.
100% true.
I think another thing, Donna, that you and Father Mohan are circling around is the idea that, okay, now you know what your strengths, and we're not calling them weaknesses, but okay, so now you're talking about affirmation. So you're not good at, X, Y, and Z. Who around you is good at that? So now your eyes are opened in a different way to see, the people around you, your staff, your colleagues in a different way, to say, okay, hold on, that person is fantastic at that, which affirms them as well. And it takes the pressure off of you. So I think that's one of the beautiful things about this program. And
so when a whole team goes through it, complementary partnerships are built.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just to be clear, everybody who's listening, just so I can add some context to this, Jen went through and took her entire team through something similar with Donna not too long ago. So she too is an advocate, as opposed to me, who refuses to play well with others. So our final priest guest to come on, we've introduced earlier, but Father Logan Nilsson, parochial vicar down in Absecon for the moment, but also one of the newest priests of the diocese, having only been ordained a few years now. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, when I joined the diocese, I think that might have been his first year as a seminarian. Father Logan, as our newest priest, newest ordained priest, or one of our newer ordained priests, what was your sort of feelings when you first heard about this program, and then your first days in it?
Yeah, when it was first presented, I was intrigued by it. I had received leadership training before I entered the seminary and the job that I was working at. So in my mind, it was kind of just dovetailing off of that. But in those first couple of sessions with my coach, going through and learning about myself and my strengths and maybe the things that aren't my strengths, so to speak, and then kind of learn like, okay, this is who I am. This is kind of what makes me tick, so to speak, and also helped clarify a lot of the things that I had been formed on in the seminary as well. You know, a lot of the seminary is about certainly being formed as a priest, but also getting to know yourself. So then spending a year or two as a priest and learning what it's like to be that, and then kind of going back to my strengths, kind of getting those solidified and learning like, okay, maybe this was a strength and it's not, or maybe this other thing that I didn't think was a strength could really serve me and serve the people that I work with really well.
Father, when you first took the strengths, were you surprised that, what like your top five were?
I was like the way they kind of break them down is they each have a name, but then in each name there's like a category. So I was more surprised by the categories were my strength as opposed to the individual strengths themselves. That's what kind of stood out to me. But then going through that and learning about each one of them, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I could kind of see that. So it in the long run, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's what I loved about it too. I was like, oh, okay, now there's like a reason behind why I do, this or that. Yes, Mike, there are reasons behind some of the things I do.
I've not found that to be true. Donna, what are like we've talked about strengths. We've used that word strengths. People have talked about these are my strengths. Can you give me some examples of like across the board what those strengths are? Like what are they referred to? What do they mean?
So in the last 20, 25 years, the assessment is scientifically valid. Nearly 30 million people have taken this assessment worldwide. And there are a list of 34 strengths, and they fall into 4 domains. So there's strategic thinking domain, there's relationship building domain, an influencing domain, and an execution domain. So your strengths will fall into those 4 domains. So what you get is a list of the 34, and they're broken out by the theme itself. So for example, Father Logan, what's your top one? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest with you. I remember what some of the characteristics are, but I don't remember the specifics of them.
Yeah. So if you think about it, so my number one is a maximizer. So what do maximizers strive for? They strive for excellence. So that actually sits in the influencing domain, right? So that sits up there. Mike, we could analyze you all day long and guess you should just go take the assessment and figure that out. But
to be clear, I
did
did take the Strength Finders assessment when I first joined the diocese, but that paperwork has gone missing, so I don't know what I am. I remember my top one was fixer, but that was it. That's all I remember.
I just want to tell everyone who's listening, there's no. What'd you say, Father?
Yeah, Mike is very high in woo.
Oh, so not.
I know.
So not. So for those who are listening, woo, if you're unfamiliar, is winning others over. I don't think Mike has woo at the top.
That's
Just saying.
more like dragging them to an epiphany.
But so generally the top 8 to 10 of the 34 are considered your signatures. And that is just where you go. You naturally gravitate. You don't think about it. You got something to do, and that's how you go do it. Then there are auxiliary strengths, and then there are your non-patterns that are at the bottom. So again, we do not use weakness. Do not.
Yeah, no, you always correct me
Father,
when I say that when I'm like weakness. It's not a weakness.
No.
It's not a weakness.
No weakness. We don't have to.
Non-pattern.
Right. And the beauty of this is when you can look at what moves you, what drives you, your core motivations, your strengths, and it helps you see yourself in this unique and unrepeatable design. I think we've spent a long time telling people in the pews, like for all of eternity, God knew you would be here now, and he created you with a missional call, and he's equipped you for it. And I think people in the pews go, okay, we don't always help them see how they've been equipped to actually do what they're supposed to do. Like Jen is supposed to be a holy Catholic editor of a Catholic newspaper, right? And she's a wife living into that vocation. Our priests are living into their vocation. And it just helps you see Christ is the head of our church, but we're all interconnected because I always say, who got all of the 34 strengths as a signature strength? Only Jesus. The rest of us have a smattering of them. Jesus has
Good
all
point.
34, right? It just kind of puts it in context.
So, Father Hughes, in your role as Vicar General, I know one of the benefits of that job is unvarnished feedback from your fellow priests. So this has been taken as I watch all of them smile right now. What kind of feedback did you get? Did everyone jump on board? Were there people who were slightly hesitant or went through the process and were converted once they actually got to see it? So what kind of feedback did you get from the priests?
I think the first, the pilot phase of the first 12, they took it seriously, and I think that their conclusion, at least when we had our meeting about it, the conclusion was, I didn't learn anything new, but I have vocabulary now to describe what I know about myself. And that's where the affirmation came in, to recognize, that here's this standardized test or this standardized survey that affirms who I know myself to be and gives me language to be able to express that and understand that more deeply. So I think the talking amongst that first 12 was what made it easier for a second cohort, a third cohort, to happen. And then the experience of all of them together, allowed for this continued executive coaching, now. There are some that said no, they didn't want to participate in it, but none of those who participated in it had a negative experience. They may have chosen not to go further, with their coaches, or to participate in this second phase. But they felt it was worth, coming to a better understanding of themselves through the survey. And there are a number of pastors that took the survey, have decided that they believe in it so much that they wanted it for their parish community. So, there are, some of the parishes across the diocese are using it with their staff, with their pastoral councils, and with other leaders in their community. And one parish, is moving forward with it in regard to the young people of their parish. So they're using a version of this for their confirmation prep program to help the young people understand that, when they come for confirmation and they ask for the gifts of the Holy Spirit, there may be one in particular that they need to have anointed because they really believe that that's how God is going to use them, as his witness through the sacrament of confirmation. So they're only in their second year of that, I believe, yeah. So they're enjoying it. So we'll see how that works out.
That's awesome. I think it's also pretty neat that we're having this podcast right now, just a couple of days after the celebration of Pentecost. So, when we're all called to go out, use our gifts, our different languages and our different skill sets. So is hearing everybody talk today just kind of fed into that for me. So thank you so much for talking about that. Nope. Mike, you're on.
Donna, I know you've been making fun of me throughout this podcast for not being a believer, but the truth of the matter is that during my years back in the secular days, I actually did participate in these things. Like I did whatever that one that's got like 4 letters in it. I always forget what the name of that one is.
Myers-Briggs.
The Myers-Briggs, that's the one. I did Myers-Briggs. And we also took, I also did some operational development courses with a company that I was with. And actually, I found them to be fascinating because, and this is something Jen had mentioned earlier, and Father Hughes just kind of referenced recently, which was it makes it so much easier to understand who you're working with, particularly people you're working with closely, if you understand what motivates them and where they're, what doesn't motivate them, what could be a hurdle for them to step over. So actually, I'm a huge believer in it, and it's been used in the secular world for years and years and years. So the fact that it's now moving into a faith-based usage, I think is it's fantastic. I genuinely do. Father John March, we've talked in the past a few times on the show about your you were a Marine, or you are a Marine, but you were an active Marine back in the day. I'm curious, as someone who sort of, was taught how to work interchangeably with others, what as a member of the Marines, did you find some similarity in this process? Might be a slightly less aggressive and slightly less shouting, but did you find some similarity?
Uh, well, I'll be honest. I'm the last person I would have chosen to be a Marine ever. And when I did the Myers-Briggs, my personality came out as can't stand standard operating procedures, and that's what the Marine Corps is built off of. So I was not in my gift set for about 6 years. But the what I'm finding is, yeah, the Marines train you in certain types of leadership situations. But the stuff that I'm seeing right now, in a parish setting, uh, maybe there's similarities to the Marine Corps, but man, not as many. And so it's so helpful to get the process with a coach. My coach has human resources experience, and so she's helping me process these. And she says they're very complex dynamics, and I get to talk through them with her, and I might be in the midst of stuff that's not easy, but at least I have somebody helping me to see what the path forward is, and in the midst of that discomfort, I have hope. So it's such a gift to get to process these things with somebody. So
Father March, you bring up an interesting topic that I wanted to ask Donna about. These coaches, where do they come from? Who are they? It's got to be a unique situation coaching priests, I would imagine.
I would imagine that it is. So we had two coaches, Joe Kavanaugh and Josh Miller. They were the coaches for the first 3 years, where we were coaching 12 priests a year to their, we called it the gifted leadership journey, right? It was all about, sort of this inward look at how unique the priests are. Now, there's a year of accompaniment executive coaching that's been offered to the clergy here in the Diocese of Camden. And these coaches are executive coaches that belong to an organization called the Communion of Catholic Coaches. So Father Hughes and I both sit on the advisory board. Actually, Father Hughes is the head of the advisory board for the CCC. And they actually, so I was talking to the woman who's a founder, Lisa Mladnick, back when we were thinking about doing this as part of the collaboration with CLI. I'm like, where are we ever going to get all these coaches from in case all the priests say yes? She said, I think we can help you. And so these amazing people, they are faithfully Catholic, they're executive coaches, they have their own coaching practices, they volunteer. So what I want to say is that they're not being compensated in the way they typically are by a client, who they're coaching. They were willing because they want to contribute to the church. And this was a way for them to do that. So they wanted an opportunity to help a member of the clergy. And so they have stepped into this second round, which is a year-long accompaniment with a priest. And I think almost all of you, Father Goyad, Father Nilsson, Father March, Father Mohan, at different stages came into this year-long accompaniment now with these executive coaches. So this is the second offering, a longer offering, of working with an executive coach. So the unique and unrepeatable gifting and design, that's already been covered in most cases. So now it's really an opportunity, like Father March was saying, of like digging into like, what actually needs to happen here? Like, what am I struggling with? And that's the beauty of a coach. Because what is a coach doing? Listening and then asking you deeply powerful questions, because coaching is not counseling. It's not spiritual direction. It's not anything. Coaching is a forward look, like where do you want to get to? And that's what these coaches do. So that's what they do with all of their clients. And so they're willing to step in and partner with the Diocese of Camden to create this offering. So the Communion of Catholic Coaches is where they're all members of.
That's great. And if anyone wants to know how to get a hold of them, Donna posts about them on her LinkedIn page ad nauseum. So I encourage you to check out Donna's LinkedIn page at some point. So we have about,
That's nice. You'll pay for that, Mike.
see what I changed your name to.
Hey.
We got about 5 minutes left. And I just wanted to make sure that we covered everything. So Jen, first of all, were there any questions that you wanted to ask we haven't had a chance to answer yet?
Well, I just wanted to ask Donna and Father March possibly, the program going forward. We've talked about where it's been and where it is now, and I guess it's safe to assume that this is a process that you hope to continue with, more priests, new priests.
Yes. We would like to give all of our clergy this opportunity to have this person, this coach, right? So they come from, look, all of them, they could speak to it. All of their coaches are from outside the diocese, right? So it kind of gives them an opportunity to talk to somebody who's not part of the diocese, not part of the chancery. And I have communicated that this is for them and about them. Nothing comes back to the chancery. So we want them to have this opportunity of accompaniment, which is really what it is, because I don't know, and you could all speak to it, fathers, who accompanies you, right? So it's an opportunity to offer that. So I guess we'll have to decide at the end of a year if you would like to continue. We have to figure out what funding of that actually looks like, right? So maybe we do that through the funding of the Clergy Leadership Development Fund, so that there can be a shared expense if you would like to continue with your coach beyond the year. But it's been, I think, beneficial to the priests who have been part of it. And I think it speaks volumes. Actually, I didn't know that priests who had been through our original coaching would sign up for this year of accompaniment, and they have. So that was surprising to me. I was pleased about it. The other thing I will say is Father Hughes referenced to like bringing the coaching into the parishes now. We haven't announced it, but there's a coaching ministry now in the diocese. So we have 9 trained coaches that can come into parishes and coach staff, heads of ministry. So we just finished up with Father Sanjay at Our Lady of Peace Parish. And I'm going to give a shout out to Father Gormley, who didn't want to be on the podcast. Can I say that now? I'm going to say that now.
Sure.
And we'll send it to him after. When he came out of the pilot, so he was one of the 12 priests sitting around looking somewhat resistant to like, why am I here? He came out of the pilot saying to me, okay, I need to bring this to my parish. I have a 10-member leadership team, volunteer leadership team, and I have a 9-member staff. I want all 19 people to go through what I just went through. So of course, me, I was like, okay, unexpected outcome. I didn't think about that as an outcome. So it was really working with Father Hughes and then inviting Father Sanjay into the conversation and inviting Stephen ministers into this work. They know what accompaniment is, although what they do in Stephen ministry is very different from here, right? This is a journey of accompaniment and revealing someone's unique and unrepeatable design to them. So we do have a ministry that's being deployed into parishes, and Jen had her team go through it. We've had several chancery teams go through it, and now we're slowly making our way with 9 through the parishes.
So Donna, that sounds like a really good story. Do you think that's something that the Catholic Star Herald could do, or do you think that you would put that to a national paper instead first?
I'm going to take a lot of heat for this. I think we should talk about this at the Catholic Star Herald. I think we can announce the ministry for parishes, certainly. But we just wanted to be able to tell the story of coaching of clergy to a larger audience so people would know. So no offense to the Catholic Star Herald. You know I love you, Jen.
Well, thank you all for joining us. I am in agreement with Father Hughes. It's something people have heard on this show many times before when I have said the Diocese of Camden is better than every other diocese. And I 100% believe that. These priests on this podcast today are living examples of it, as is Jen and some days Donna. But I want to thank all of you for being here. I'd like to thank our listeners for tuning in, and we will have another edition next week. But I do hope that you will learn more about this process in the Catholic Star Herald shortly, along with who to contact and where to contact if you'd like to participate in some fashion or like to learn more about it. So thank you all, and we'll talk to you again next week. See you, everybody.